Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you,
It's just an honor to sit here with you after so many years of working with you. I'm happy
We're
for
old
you.
friends, so
Yes, we are.
I appreciate your being with me tonight. This is a special night for me, and I appreciate being given a chance to do this.
How do you feel?
I feel wonderful. It's kind of a relief, you know. This has been going on for several months, talking about it and trying to decide on a date that's good for the station, and then when to make this announcement. We've been kind of kicking it around for a few days, and finally decided yesterday that, well, we might as well go ahead and do it. And then today we had all the storms and everything, so I thought we may have to cancel it again. But fortunately, they moved on out before the program got on the air, and we were able to make the announcement tonight, and so now it's a relief.
You've been monitoring storms for how many years, Chief?
Too many to remember at this point, but it goes back to 1962 when I was in Orlando, Florida, and I was doing the weather and covering hurricanes then. We set up a cot in the studio, and I went on for 12 hours, and then somebody else took over for 12 hours, and then I came back and did another 12-hour shift, and really we couldn't leave the station because the storms were so bad, so we'd stay there and just stay on the air all the time.
And when you started, I mean, you're using a chalkboard, a pointer. We've seen so much technology, multiple computers, satellite. Tell me about those changes, those transitions, and how you were able to maintain and keep up.
Well, my first weathercast is most memorable because our news director was also an artist, and he made a pen for me with white tempera paint. It was a flow pen. It was a white flow pen, and I had a big map on the wall, and I painted the map, and I'm looking at the camera, and it's all in black and white. So I'm painting away and putting in the fronts and looking at the camera, giving the forecast. And I'm watching the stagehands behind the cameras, and they're starting to do that. They're laughing, and I wonder what's going on. Well, the paint was just a little too thin, and it began to drip down the map.
Oh,
so
no.
That was my introduction into weather. So I learned right away you gotta rehearse these things before you put them on the air. And of course now in our office we have something like 19 computers last time I counted, and with 3 different operating systems on them, so we've come a long way.
What was the most challenging?
Well, you take it in little baby steps, so I don't know that anything is more challenging than another. Each day is a challenge to me, and that's why I've enjoyed this so much, is that I go in looking for the challenge each and every day. What can I do differently today than I did yesterday? How can I tell the story any differently today? How can I make it more interesting for the audience? How can I use a graphic to better explain the weather and make it more understandable? So each day to me is a challenge. I mean, the technology is changing so rapidly now, the challenge is to keep up with it. And
was that difficult for you then? I'm having a problem with it.
Well, there are some days, sometimes it comes so fast at you that you really got to take it in little steps and digest it. The problem is that some of the programs that we use are only really applicable, for instance, during the wintertime. So when the summer is over, we have to reacquaint ourselves with some of these applications so we get familiar with them again. And then they change, and they're updated, and software is updated, and we have to learn new software every 6 months or so. So it's a challenge keeping up with it, but it's something you look forward to. I think once your job loses its challenge, that's the time to say goodbye. And fortunately, I still feel challenged by it, and I enjoy that.
Do you monitor the weather at home?
My wife will tell you. It's the first thing I do when I get up and get dressed in the morning is go online, which is a great advance for me because I can do some of the work at home. By the time I get to the studio here in the afternoon, I've spent a good hour, more than an hour, looking at the weather and getting a good idea of what I can expect the day to be like. So yes, I do. It's the first thing I do look at in the morning.
Most memorable moments?
Oh, there are so many. There are so many. I mean, our first broadcast here in 1977 is memorable. I'll never forget it. And I don't know that anyone stands out over another because there are just so many now. I suppose if I sat down and ruminate about it for a while, I could come up with a few. Certainly the chance to get out and cover stories live in the field when we went storm chasing.
That was so much fun, Jerry.
Texas and
you put that cap on, turned that cap around on your head, and we're going, go Chief! The Chief is out there in the storm. We've got to be able to put a picture of you with that cap on. But what was that like, storm chasing?
Well, it was a great feeling because number one, we got out from the studio and we were out in the weather and able to cover it. And we went to a lot of different places. We went to Texas, we went to California, we went to Florida and the Carolinas. The whole thing about the hat being on backwards was that when you're in high winds and a tornado, if the bill of your cap is over your face, it tends to blow it off. So if you put the bill around backwards, you can see your audience, they can see your face, and you get sort of wet, but at least your cap doesn't blow off and your hair isn't all soggy.
How dangerous is that, though? So many people are interested. Young people go to storm chase. I mean, This should be pretty serious.
Well, yes. I mean, out in California, for instance, we went onto an area that was having a mudslide, and we started walking up to the area where the worst mudslide was, and there was a police car there, and there was an officer sitting in the car, and he said, before you gentlemen go up there, he said, please leave your driver's license and identification with me. We said, why? And he said, well, so that we can notify your next of kin if something happens. And he said, it's not real stable up there. So, we got to go get the story. So we gave him our driver's license, and, of course, we didn't tell our families that we were doing this. Wow. And we went up and shot the story and came back, and everybody said, wow, what great footage. And we said, yep, and we walked away from it, too, and we're real happy about that.
And when you're a science editor, I remember the science editor reports that you would give, breakthrough technology, things happening. Did you enjoy that, and what did you enjoy most about it? It
was one of the greatest feelings of accomplishment that I've had, really. I mean, the weather has been my bread and butter. But being able to report on science and to go from a time when doctors wouldn't even talk with us because their feeling was that this is sort of advertising, and there was kind of an unwritten rule that you wouldn't advertise in medicine. So they wouldn't talk to us at first. This goes back to 1974. But then as they saw that we could handle this very credibly and do a complete job with it, they began to loosen up a little bit more, and so we got more and more information. I look at a story, for instance, that we did on Reye's syndrome. We covered that for a number of years, and this was a syndrome that affected young children in their cribs, and they would die of this, and everybody thought it was sudden infant death syndrome, but it was an expansion of their brain, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. And finally there was some research done, and I had several letters from viewers who said, doctors are going to find something very simple, something very common that babies use, that we all use, that's causing this. Could be aspirin, could be the water we drink. Well, sure enough, researchers eventually found that it was giving babies aspirin during a viral infection that caused Reye's. And so that's why you're now told to give a baby aspirin or Tylenol when they have a viral infection like the chickenpox or the flu. And we've virtually not have heard about Reye's now in decades. So, I mean, it was interesting to cover that story from beginning to finish, to see something develop and then to watch a cure, research bringing us a breakthrough.
Do you still follow through with those reports and keep up on research? How interesting is it today?
It's part of my life. I mean, it's in you. You follow it, and I don't think I ever will stop. It's just a fascinating subject for me, and again, here's another area where things are moving so rapidly that they're so interesting, and they affect our lives, and they affect our way of living and our lifespans, that how can you not be interested in them?
Certainly H1N1 was a scare to all of us.
And here we were, just a year ago at this time, trying to see if we would have enough flu vaccine to inoculate everyone, and now we have an overabundance of it. And the question this year will be, well, what do we do for this flu season? And I think they're wrestling with that right now, trying to see what the main strain is going to be.
What's next for Jerry Hodak, the chief?
I've been thinking about that. I mean, there's the to-do list that we all have, things that we want to do. Retirement for me doesn't mean getting out the checkerboard right now and sitting in the rocking chair. I think I have to define it for myself, and I don't know quite what it is because I'm still fully involved in what I do day in and day out here, and will be for a while. I think once I stop, once my time here is over and I can sit and think about things and have time to breathe, that I'll come to some conclusion about what I want to do. I've had some offers to do some mentoring for students in
that would be fantastic.
In university, and so I'm following up on that, and I've made the offer that I'd be certainly more than willing to do that. So I think some of my time will be spent doing that, and I look forward to that. But just what exactly retirement is going to mean for me, we all define it in our own way, and I have yet to define it because I don't have the time right now.
Well, all of your colleagues really embraced you today. We love you and we truly respect you. But when you said September 23rd, I was thinking, that's a Thursday. Why would the chief? And then when you explained that, and as a grandma loving every minute of being with the grandkids, please share with us why you chose the Thursday as opposed to Friday, wrapping up the week.
Well, I have 4 grandsons, and they're all involved in something or other, and I want to spend some time with them. One of my grandsons is in his senior year in high school up in Okemos, Daniel Emmerich, and he's an all-league player, and he's in his senior year of football, and so his football games are on Friday night.
I love it.
And so I want to go to his football games and see him on Friday night, so we're going to wrap this up on a Thursday night so that the following night I can be at one of his football games and enjoy watching him play.
anything you would just like to leave with the viewers, people at home, just your time to just say whatever you want to say, Jerry.
Well, you know, I think I have to give this some thought as we go along here in the days to come, and I'll have some final words, of course, as we get toward the end of things, and certainly on my final broadcast I'll have some final thoughts. But, you know, I just want to say thank you to the people who have been so gracious to welcome me into their home each and every night. This is a great responsibility, and it's not one that I take lightly, nor one that I forget about easily. It's with me each and every day that you welcome me into your home, and I need to have the responsibility to give you the best job that I can possibly give you. One of the responsibilities is also to understand when it's time to walk away, to step down, and so that's the point that I'm at right now.
You look great. You sound good. I mean, you're happy and chipper.
Indeed I am.
It's a good time for you, isn't it?
I hope to have as much fun as I've ever had for the next couple of months, and I'm looking forward to it.
And when you think about the industry, you have children in the industry, your girls. What are they doing in the industry?
I have two daughters. My daughter, Ann Emmerich, is, for many people who live in the Lansing area are familiar with her. She anchors the news on weekends and is a reporter during the week. And my daughter, Jane, is the assistant news director at WJRT, Channel 12 in Flint. And so, and my daughter, Mary, went into finance. I don't know how she got away, but she had a mild interest in, yeah, exactly. Well, she handles the finances. She makes those decisions. So, yeah, and I had a very wonderful experience with my daughter Jane here, who was a producer at Channel 7 for several years. I mean, she was a producer of my 5 o'clock broadcast, and she was my boss. That was that was a very interesting period of time.
It's a wonderful feeling. I'm working with Glenda. I share that feeling with you. So, old blue eyes. I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of all the things we used to laugh and talk about. Frank Sinatra, and we love the fact that he did it his way. And Jerry Hodak, we're proud of you because you really did it your way.
Well, I've tried, and hopefully I've succeeded.
So from all of us here at Channel 7 and the viewing audience, we love you, we respect you. God bless you, you and your wife, your wonderful wife, Peg. I know she'll be happy to have you home a little.
I hope so.
Sometime.
I've asked her that question.
But good luck to you. God bless you.
Thank you, Di. Thank you. Love you.
I love you, Jerry. Thank you.